Caregiving. It's a service that we need from the moment we're born.
I was hired by a family to take care of their twin boys. I met them days after they came home from the NICU. They were so small.
The need continues to the day we die.
And a few of my hospice patients had neurological degenerative diseases. So essentially your muscles fail from your head to your toes.
We've been collecting your stories about being paid caregivers. And this week and next, we're going to be exploring your stories.
The pay isn't great. You're treated like a martyr.
Over several months, we talked to nannies, foster parents, care workers for the elderly and disabled. You told us about the relationships you've made, some of the tough stuff that's motivated your work, like violence or lack of care at home growing up, and about the hours of work.
Wake up, get ready, dress, fed, give them medicines, do PT, OT, take them to appointments, take them home from appointments.
The physical challenges of it.
By the time you get for the stroller to come back up, it has also a lot of strain on your body.
Sometimes joyful.
Being showered with love and watercolor paintings dedicated to you.
Sometimes less so.
You haven't slept and you don't know if the fecal matter's going away and maybe you have pink eye. There's a million things.
Caring is not something you can check out from. You're filling an intimate need.
When I was working in the group home, I was the acting parent for a lot of kids. A girl with a very traumatic past gave me a Mother's Day card one year, and that was extremely meaningful and painful.
And not getting paid enough to do it.
You don't have a pension. You don't have a 401k. There's nothing to walk away with.
This is Death, Sex, and Money. The show from Slate about the things we think about a lot and need to talk about more. I'm Anna Sale.
REI Co-op presents a mini mindfulness break. Take a deep breath in. Picture yourself on a mountain. As you hold your breath, look down at your skis, freshly waxed thanks to your REI membership, carving through powder like a knife to warm butter. Breathe out slowly. Let the air leave your lungs, like you'd leave your local co-op with all the gear, clothing, classes, and advice you could hope for. Make time to opt outside. REI.com.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you, or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
As the population in the U.S. ages over the next decade, demand for home health aides is projected to increase faster than any other job. According to AARP, there's a shift away from nursing homes as more people want to age at home, and often that takes hiring some help. One of those workers is a listener we're calling Rahn. He sent us a voice memo about a patient he cared for, a former physician, who was dying with ALS.
So this person was a doctor their entire life. Their role, everything that encompassed this person was caring for other people. And then at the very end, they are the one who had to accept help and have to deal with that mind fuckery, excuse my language, that came along with having to accept help and realizing your body was failing you, not that, but your mind. You're a brilliant person, but then you're having things where you realize everything is failing and you have to accept roles. So with this person, I learned so many things and it was just so intimate. Did it pay great? No, but it was the most joyful moments of my years, and everything I learned from them, my patients, I'm going to pass on to my kids because The little mannerisms and things I picked up from my patients are going to kind of live forever.
Rahn was a home health aide for over 10 years. He's in his mid-30s now. That patient wasn't his only close relationship. There were many that ended in funerals and then ongoing relationships with the family members of his patients. The work itself, Rahn said, is tender and also just doing what needs to be done.
Letting somebody wipe your behind, it's not the most graceful. Unfortunately, I have to help, and that's something that we're both just going to have to accept, that, hey, we both have to do this.
How much did you talk with the patients that you helped take care of about life?
My patients, we would talk continuously. We would talk about everything and nothing. I've talked to patients about physics, on how to bake the best macarons. There's a secret behind that, but I will not share. A lot of the things that, and this is why I also loved it, is they told me things they've never told anybody else. Their family members, they can't tell their family members, for instance, that they feel really guilty that their entire family is having to accommodate them. They can't vent to anybody else about that. And it was a two-way street. I've told my patients things I've never told other people.
Rahn lives in Maryland. It's where he grew up. As a kid, he wanted to join the military because that's what his mom did. Then he had an injury that disqualified him from joining. And he struggled at school. He started getting into trouble and eventually dropped out of high school. He got into care work at 19 because someone at his mom's church was asking around for someone to look after a family member. He volunteered to help at first and found he was good at it and that it could be a way to make money.
So yes, I knew immediately, and everybody in my inner circle knew, dude, this is for you.
Can you tell me what felt so good about it?
I don't really have to put in much. This sounds cocky, but I don't really have to put in much work into helping people. It just feels natural.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how to explain it.
No, I think I understand. It's like maybe other things have felt like it wasn't intuitive. Like school didn't feel like a comfortable place all the time. And this felt easy. This felt like you knew how to do this. Like it was part of who you are.
That is a great way to put it, yes.
I'm struck, though, you started this work when you were a teenager, when you were 19. Were you comfortable with older people? Did you know how to be?
In a way, yes. So I will be straight up. I honestly like older people more than people my age because there's just so many reasons.
Wait, what are some of the reasons?
They're no nonsense. They'll say it as it is. They're more vulnerable. So I just like helping older patients. I don't know. I've always bonded more with females, like women and older people.
Before you did this kind of work, had anyone close to you died before?
When I was younger, my father passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about, it suppressed, I pushed it down so much that the actual age for many years I thought was 8, but apparently it was 12 when he passed away. Coping mechanism.
Were you close to your dad when he died?
No. When I was younger, I heard my dad strangling my mom, and they got a divorce, and a few years later he passed away. So never really was, after that incident, wasn't really close to him.
Mm-hmm.
But that is kind of what, it sounds horrible and crappy, but yes, it is horrible and crappy, but I actually appreciate that. Because that feeling and that knowledge of knowing exactly what it's like and feeling helpless and terrified and scared, I can empathize with my patients who are in that state right now. So it isn't lost on me on what I learned and experienced in that moment.
And how it shaped you. Yeah.
It shaped everything.
Is that something you and your mom talk about?
I am open with her if she would be open to discussing it, but I don't want to
push.
Yes. But then again, if I was to ask her, my mom is my mom. She is awesome. And that's part of the reason I when I was saying I empathize with older people and women, is because I was always generally around women. And my mom's a badass. 32 years in the military, a colonel, one promotion away from a general. That's my mom. So we have a great relationship. If I was to actually ask her point blank, what happened that night, walk me through it, the entire thing, she would answer it. But I'm not there yet.
Does it feel a little bit like these very intimate conversations you've had with some of the older people that you've cared for, that it's, I don't know, like it's a safe place for them to talk to you because you're not a direct family member, and it's a safe place for you to talk to them because they're not a direct family member, so you can have maybe more directness and intimacy than you can with people that you are more, related to?
I've never thought about it like that. I guess that is kind of part of why I would open up to them, is they're kind of a neutral party. And I'm still learning stuff about myself. That's interesting.
What are you doing for work right now?
I was working as a medical assistant in cardiology.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that for a few years. And right now I am in school to be an x-ray technician, which is going to be a 2-year long horrific journey.
Horrific?
But worth it. Horrific.
School's still not quite your jam.
No. No.
Are you doing caregiving work to keep earning money while you're in school?
I did briefly. I was helping with the former patient's wife who needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And my plan after leaving the hospital was to possibly do part-time caregiving. Going back to that, though, and I didn't realize, maybe it's because I'm a little bit older, how draining it is. I can't do that like I used to. Like sleeping, not getting much sleep, waking up, and then immediately having to measure out medicine and administer it at night. And also, it is very emotionally draining because to this day, I don't really manage emotions that well. Probably not process them the best way, kind of just push them down. And going from caregiving to pushing it down and then going to school the next day or right after that is just harder I wouldn't be able to do that.
Many paid caregivers for older people first get into the work after doing it for free for a loved one, according to focus groups last fall by the healthcare research group KFF. Rahn's experience of burnout from the physical toll and the emotional toll of the deterioration of his patients was also common. And another stressor, of course, is there's not enough money to pay for it all. Families told KFF that care is so expensive that many couldn't afford all the help they needed, while workers described wages that didn't account for all the demands of the job. More on that coming up.
There's never quite enough money left over. There's certainly never enough time or energy left over to spend with my family, including my own 13-year-old.
I was struggling to pay my rent, and I realized that I could go bartend and work half the hours and make double the money. So I decided to go back to the bar, and I did end up relapsing.
This is our first new episode of the year, and I'm really glad it's one where we are sharing some of your stories, ones that are complicated and not just one note, where you hear each other feel more than one thing at a time about the essential, difficult, loving work of paid caregiving. It's kind of in line with my New Year's intention, which is to think more about integration as my guiding principle, making sure different parts of myself are getting oxygen. So while we have been making these episodes about paid caregiving, including how unforgiving the work can be and how broken the system can feel for people who need help, we are also working on a live comedy show for you. It's also going to be about the depth and breadth of the human experience. On January 31st in San Francisco, we're doing a live show as part of the improv and comedy festival Sketchfest. I'll be joined by comedians Guy Branum and Carl Tart, writer Chanel Miller, musician Matt Nathanson, and an at-home euthanasia vet who also worked as an exotic dancer. If you can be in the Bay Area on Friday, January 31st, come out. There's a link to get tickets in our show notes. So I am starting this year with your caregiving stories and comedy, all the above, integration. Happy New Year to you, and I hope you also are finding ways to feed all the different sides of yourself.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today? Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices, and that's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies, so you can save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states and situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today? Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices, and that's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies, so you can save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states and situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadline so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate. I'm Anna Sale. In 2020, the national median pay was just over $13 an hour for home health and personal care aides. Nearly half of direct care workers make less than $30,000 a year and rely on public assistance. But despite low pay, for families paying for caregiving, the cost can still feel like way too much. For the most part, Medicare does not cover long-term care. It pays for things like acute care or rehab after a hip surgery, but not ongoing assistance. And on average, a 65-year-old is expected to pay more than $40,000 out of pocket on paid care until their death, according to the Department of Health and Human Services.
She has a house cleaner that comes to the house every 2 weeks. And she has a gardener, and she has a pool cleaner.
Tita Rose is from the Philippines and works for a care agency in Cupertino, California. The woman she takes care of pays the agency out of pocket. Tita Rose has had this particular assignment for 5 years. They know each other well.
She just doesn't want to take a nap She wants to stay watching TV the whole afternoon. But because she is 98, her back is kind of aching if she is not able to take naps.
How is her mind?
A little bit having some signs for dementia because she is a sundowner. And in the afternoon before dinner, we serve dinner around 5:30. She will start to look for stuff that she, remembered, that she remembers, like, where's my key?
Yeah.
Where's my purse? Take a look if the blue car is still in the driveway. Why? Oh, I have to go home. You have to go with me, things like that.
Is Muriel from a white American family? Does she?
Yes.
Have you ever had any sort of tensions or misunderstandings where there's just kind of how you understand caregiving based on how you grew up in the Philippines, or how caregivers are to be treated? Have you ever had to have conversations where you sort of talk about what your cultural expectations are with people you've taken care of?
Oh, yes, we do sometimes, but through proper communication, we kind of had an understanding because actually Muriel's husband was in the military during the Second World War.
Oh, wow.
And he's a fighter plane dropped in the Philippine Sea. And her husband was saved by Filipino fishermen. So Muriel has really a heart for Filipinos because she said that had it not been for the Filipino fishermen, her husband must have been dead by then.
Wow.
So she's not a racist. She loves Filipinos,
Do you feel like, have you worked for racist people before?
Oh, yes, some.
In the U.S., 85% of home care workers are women. 2/3 are people of color, and around 1/3 are immigrants. Tita Rose, what she asked us to call her, arrived in the U.S. in 2008 from the Philippines with a work visa to clean rooms at a Sheraton hotel in Florida. She moved to Oakland, California a year later when her friend told her there were jobs at a senior care home. The owner of the care home picked up Tita Rose from the airport and immediately started her on the job.
I had an on-the-job training for at least 2 days. They trained me how to do lifting, how to take care of the elderly, how to give them bath, assist them in their daily life.
And did you have other housing or did you live at the care home?
All of the caregivers, we live in the care home. There were beds, like 2 beds for the 2 female caregivers to stay. But on the other side of the room are the washer and the dryer. And, it's just separated by a curtain or a drape. So when...
I see. So your housing was a bed in the laundry room. It wasn't a...
Yes.
Was part of your job getting woken up in the middle of the night if you were needed?
Oh, yes. It's part of their job.
Uh-huh.
We do that, especially when they are in hospice care, because they have to be given medications at least every 2 hours or every hour.
So Tita Rose worked around the clock. She had just 2 days off a month and was paid $300 a week. And all that time with patients helped her get to know them and their families, like a patient's daughter named Carol, who came to visit and asked Rose if she wanted to come into town for a day trip. While they were out, Carol asked Rose, "How many days are you working? It seems like you never have days off."
She sensed that there are some irregularities. So she said, I think it's not fair, actually. You have to have offered at least 2 days a week. That was the beginning that, are we really? Do we have the right, I asked her, to have that kind of time off in a week? And then she was kind of silent. And then she said, don't worry, I'll make a research on that.
Carol started asking around and ended up connecting Tita Rose to a workers' rights group in the Bay Area, Filipino Advocates for Justice. They told her that she and her coworkers were entitled to overtime pay and that their living conditions weren't up to standard. They passed along a Know Your Rights booklet and offered to help come organize the workers to get back pay. Did you tell your coworkers what you were learning about?
Oh, yes, because I was kind of empowered, I should say. And there was a support from the Filipino Advocate for Justice. And I began to circularize the book to the trusted caregivers in its free care home. Yeah, so we had that conversation. And our alibi was, because if there's a birthday among one of us, we usually had a little kind of get together, karaoke, and things like that.
So you had a birthday party that was actually a labor organizing meeting.
And not only a birthday, one instance was also at the time Pacquiao, the boxer from the Philippines. Yes, that was the time. So we were allowed to go to another care home that has a pay-per-view there.
I see, to watch boxing.
We meet also there together.
Yeah, we have to go watch Pacquiao, and then you go and you talk and share information. Interesting. And this, can you describe for me, at that point when you're talking with your coworkers, you're gathering information from advocates, what were the risks? What could go wrong?
Everybody was scared because everybody, most of us were undocumented then, and most of us doesn't have families here. And I was helping my nephews. So we were all scared, and we know that there's a risk because the owner might retaliate. And so the owner harassed us, of course. She would ask, who was the leader? Who started this all? And everybody was silent. And then exactly after 1 month, we didn't go through the process of the labor court. No, exactly after 1 month, their lawyer suggested that they should pay us. And they paid us.
And they paid you. It worked.
Yes, it worked.
Tita Rose got $20,000 from the care home in back pay. She kept working there for 1 more year with more days off and overtime pay. She had an advocacy group to help her decipher what she was due as a worker, and they got it from a company. Things can be even trickier for care workers who work in people's homes. The employment arrangements can be much less formal. They're paid often in cash by bosses who aren't otherwise employers. And the laws differ from state to state about how much in-home care workers are protected by general employment laws that relate to things like workplace safety or discrimination and harassment. Coming up, what one nanny experienced about the blurred boundaries when you're working in your boss's home.
I worked with a family during the pandemic, so that was like the only person that baby saw. I worked with a family where the dad hit on me, and that was horrible, and couldn't quit for a really long time.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality bikes, which might lead to another discovery. Getting back in the saddle isn't always comfortable. Good news is Sierra has massage guns. And chafe wipes, too. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 40% off select styles. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We heard from so many of you who have done care work. Even those of you who did it decades ago still talked about how much you treasure the relationships you made.
I still think about them and wonder what that little boy is like now.
She actually texted me this morning to tell me about the travels that she's doing. So I have stayed very, very close with that family.
It does leave a sadness where they no longer need, or in some cases even remember you when you have loved them so deeply, is a really hard thing to grapple with and try and understand.
My job is to fall in love and to be present and to tune in so intensely to this little person and to be their best friend. And then they turn 2 or 3 and they go to preschool or they move away, and then my heart breaks and they don't remember me. And I find a new baby to take care of, and the whole cycle starts all over again.
The listener we're calling Goldi is 36. She lives in Montana, and she's been nannying for nearly a decade. Before that, she worked in a preschool. Goldi told us that one of the reasons she likes working with kids and is good at it, she thinks, is because she's autistic. It's a diagnosis she got later in life.
There was a lot of years of being misunderstood and being taught in a way that didn't fit my brain. And I got a couple learning disabilities, but I didn't get autism in there because I can talk a blue streak. And that was confusing to people in the 90s.
Yeah. And I guess just so I can understand, how do you think of your autism as expressing itself?
I am hyper empathetic. Which is not something people talk about. We talk about the numbness in autism. We talk about people often see autistic people as being disconnected. But one of the things they say is that autistics' first language is energy. And then we have to put words to that energy, essentially. And so I couldn't watch Roadrunner as a kid. It'd make me cry. So that hyper empathetic, super sensitive response to my environment. That means, I think as a caregiver, I don't know. But I would say I think a lot about sensory things when I'm working with babies and that kind of thing. And so I'm thinking about what are the lights doing? What's the sound doing? How is it affecting my body? How could it affect a person who's never been in the world before?
That attunement seems like it must be a superpower with kids who don't yet, even if they have language, they, might struggle with precise language around saying what they need or feel in a moment. And for you to attune to that, must be so great.
It's pretty beautiful. I love what I've created with the relationships I've created with those children.
We're talking, and it's early afternoon where you are. What's your work schedule like right now for nannying?
That's hard. I actually just got let go.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all right. It came as a surprise to me. But it was just not a match in terms of, they're very anxious people. And a part of nannying is reflecting and validating people's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually just couldn't validate that level of anxiety anymore. It was making me ill.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. You were caring for a child. The parents had an anxious energy that felt overly protective or unhelpful to you?
Yes. Yeah.
And you had a different style?
Yeah.
With their child?
Yeah. If a kid is doing something that is like they go towards the outlet, say. They're not going to touch it, but they're about to, and they're looking at you. Their fingers are outstretched. And then instead of go, and maybe I might go, that's my little version of no. Or instead of going, no, oh my gosh, no, I just would say like, oh, let's do this. And I would act really calm and put my energy somewhere else. And the parents were like, we want you to be more worried.
I see. How old was the child?
1 and 3.
Oh, I see. So this was a family that you could have worked for a number of years before the 1-year-old went to some kind of school environment.
Yeah, I worked with the 3-year-old from the time he was about 1.5 to now, and I was just getting to know the baby, and yeah, it's kind of sad.
How long ago did that happen?
Monday.
Oh, just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Did you have any kind of severance or any pay that's going to outlast how long you've worked for them?
Yeah, I think I have 2 weeks pay, and I can probably file for unemployment. It's up in the air right now. I have to process a lot of the feelings. There's a lot of grief. And then I'll know what to do. I also have to process those feelings before I say goodbye to the children.
You're going to do that separately in a separate kind of meetup?
Yeah, we're going to have a goodbye date, but I can't let any of this bitterness or sadness leak into our goodbye.
So this is an example of how paid caregiving is a condition of employment can sometimes be, can you vibe with the family culture in which you are brought into?
Yeah, but also I have a pretty big boundary up about becoming too close to parents. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously because of what happened, there's another reason there, right? Like the issue that with the nanny daddy a while back.
When Goldi was 27, she quit working at a daycare in Montana and moved to a bigger city to pursue jazz music. She's a singer-songwriter.
Didn't know anybody, and one of my musician friends was like, I know somebody, they just had a baby, they need a nanny, and they're like, you'd be great. And I was like, great, let's do it. And I met with them once, and I met their baby, and then we said, okay. And that's how it started. Dad was at home most of the time. Mom went to work, I believe. And yeah.
And he was inappropriate with you?
Yeah. He was a very charismatic person, and he was very well loved in the musical world, and I was desperate to be part of the musical world. And I was there with his baby, and he didn't touch me. He was more like, I'm attracted to you. And I was like, okay, good for you. And I tried to sort of ignore it, which was a mistake. But I ignored it and just tried to do my job and focus on the baby and focus on surviving in my weird city. And then it just got worse. He started texting, and it was just very flirtatious. And he'd be like, I want to get you, you want me to grab you a coffee? I'm on my way. And I made you lunch. Mm-hmm. And then there was one night where he drunkenly showed up and knocked on my door
at your home,
and said at my home, and said I just want to know what it would be like to kiss you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, stop trying to blow up your life. It didn't help that we were very emotionally, I was super emotionally supportive. I was being a therapist for him while taking care of his child. there weren't boundaries in the home the way that I have now.
Did you keep working for them after that, after you came to your home?
Yes. It sounds so crazy now when I think about it, but I didn't know anyone. I had no other way of making money. I'd been unemployed in that city for about 8 months already. I just thought I had to buck up and get through it, kind of.
Did he back off?
No. No. He kept sending me texts and texting me throughout the day and being flirtatious. And then Thanksgiving, I didn't have anybody, so I had Thanksgiving with the family. And we all went to the racetrack. So you dress up really nice to go to the racetrack. And his wife was next to me and she was like, have you ever heard that some men fall in love with their nannies? And I was like, no, never.
Do you think she knew or picked up on something?
Yeah, she knew. Oh, yeah, she knew. She was giving me an opening and I was completely in survival mode and just like, I'm going to continue to be, because I don't know how to get out of this.
Mm-hmm. How did that employment situation end?
It just ended. Yeah. Yeah. I think there might have been a text. It wasn't in person. And then he told a bunch of people in the city that I came on to him, and that kind of, ruined my reputation to try to work with people as a musician.
Oh, man. So you use the word boundaries to describe what you learned from that experience. And I want to just understand a little bit more about what that looks like and feels like for you, because I can imagine when you're 26 and you're in a household and there's a baby and there's something else going on that's big emotionally for one of the parents, and you're trying to both, take care of the baby and be emotionally supportive of the other things going on in the house. I can understand how that could grow, into a tangled relationship.
Yeah. How do I explain it? I guess we care about each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, my sister's having a baby soon, and she said, will you be my nanny? And I said, absolutely not. And she said, why? And I said, I'm not friends with the parents. I cannot be close friends with the parents. I'm just too much in their intimate world to really become friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have a child, your amygdala swells up and your heart is outside of your body. And you're so vulnerable. And I am witnessing that vulnerability. You don't need to tell me about what happened in college.
Uh-huh.
You don't need to tell me about what your dad said to you. I am seeing, there's like a level of vulnerability that I am honored to hold. And more than that is crossing over.
What do you say now if somebody tries to tell you what their father said to them and lean on you for some emotional support?
I'm fine with it. Like, that's fine. I just don't take it in the way I used to.
Mm-hmm. It's not your job.
If they know, if they talk about their pain, then they might want to know about mine. And as a nanny, I'm not supposed to have needs. It is too hard for the family. The children's needs come first. The parents' needs comes first. My needs, that's not in the picture.
That was a listener we're calling Goldi. Goldi is starting with a new family in the new year and is considering going back to school for occupational therapy. Next week, we'll share another episode about paid caregiving and hear from a disabled listener who relies on her husband for everything from getting out of bed to going to the bathroom, and says it can be so nice to have some outside help come in.
It's kind of fun for me because when we normally eat, we eat off one plate. And so I don't really like making him feed me stuff he doesn't want to eat just because, it's time. And so when I'm my caregiver here, I can have all the gummy bears I want.
I'll feed you as many gummy bears as you like, and you know that.
Yes, but you know what I mean.
I do.
This episode was produced by Zoe Azoulay. Thank you to the California Domestic Workers Coalition for putting us in touch with Tita Rose. Death, Sex, and Money is produced by Slate. The rest of our team includes Andrew Dunn and Cameron Drews. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer at Slate. Alicia Montgomery is Slate's head of audio. If you are not already a member of Slate Plus, please sign up to support our work. You'll get a special ad-free stream of our show and exclusive Slate Plus episodes. Go to slate.com/DSM Plus, or you can sign up on the Death, Sex, and Money show page on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Our theme music is by the Reverend John DeLure and Steve Lewis. If you are new to our show, welcome. We are glad you're here. Find us and follow us on Instagram @DeathSexMoney. I write a weekly newsletter you can subscribe to at annasale.substack.com. And you can reach us anytime with voice memos, pep talks, questions, critiques at our email address, deathsexmoney@slate.com. We love hearing from you. I'm Anna Sale, and this is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate.